are we really capitalizing in every single conversation, every single opportunity? Because really, in this market, it's that important. It's that important to be working at 110% at 100% of the time.
Yeah. Well, I think too, we're problem solvers. So the best way to solve people's problems and like the most impressive way is to solve them before they happen. Hey guys, welcome back to Realestatable, your go-to podcast for raw, real, and relevant information in the real estate world. Today, we're talking about the power of one listing and how you can turn one listing into more listings.
And more business for you. So you always hear people say that listing agents last. And I feel like there's so many different changes that are in the horizon for our industry. So many different things in question mark on what it's going to look like for us really in like the next 6 months, the next year, et cetera. So this concept that we want to talk to you about today really is the power of one. And how can we multiply that into more business by really kind of fine tooth combing how we're handling one listing, one property, one house into more business.
All right, give it a listen. All right, so let's talk about how if you have one listing, you can turn it into more listings. Except for you might be a new agent and you don't have any listings, so you can't even try this, right?
So how do you turn nothing into something? That's what we're going to give you tips on today.
Yes.
Very exciting.
Okay, so somebody in your office has to have a listing because we're in the business of selling houses. So my best advice would be if you don't have a listing, use somebody else's listing because you can host an open house and kind of market to neighbors and do the strategies that we're going to be talking about today with someone else's listing. It doesn't have to be yours.
The key to start this out is especially if you're going to do all of the tips that we're going to talk about today, the key is going to be going to the agent that's not already going to do the steps that we're talking about. So when you're analyzing this, I think you have to be looking at the area, the demand, and a lot of different recipes for success if you're choosing a listing. If it is one of your listings, it does not matter if that is the perfect scenario. This is something we suggest on every single listing that you put a sign into the yard and start marketing, that you do this regardless. But if you are cherry picking and talking through options with different agents in your office, you want to make sure, one, that you're not doubling back efforts. If you're going to be trying to do open houses, well, you don't do it. You try to find this listing with the open house queen of your office. If you're looking at the door knocking concept or any of these concepts, do not be looking at those properties of listing agents that are already doing some of these concepts. So that's kind of our tip and trick for that. But if it is your listing, this is on every single one, no matter, the perfect scenario. Perfect scenarios, you have a listing and now you have the opportunity to get more business.
All right, so let's talk about, you get the listing, and I know we have episodes on like professional photography and staging, but I want to jump to, so the day that we stage a property, we are going in, we're picking out the staging, placing the staging, but because the house typically looks its very best that day, we're taking reels.
Yeah.
We're grabbing content, as much content as we can. If it's like up close, if it's B-roll, if it's you walking through the property, there are highlights of the property even. There's so many ways that you can continue to market a property with reels.
Well, and I always think, like, have you guys ever batched content and been like, okay, I'm doing a content day, and then 4.3 seconds later, you're like, I've already used all of that. Like, we just spent so much time. So I think that there's no such thing as too much. And I also don't want to allow you guys to think that the easy button of property photography and videography is doing the job of organic, actual social media content. So the amateur stuff that is getting pushed out on your reels and just through social media in general, those are going to have a different reach than your professional photography and your videography. Anything you're doing with a professional marketing company, this is completely different. If you think, okay, well, I'll get 10 things. Well, what happens if this house is a little bit more challenging to sell? Yes, you can go back, but like what Ashlee was saying, this day typically is, you're at 100%. Now you might be at 95, 92%, the rest of the time, but you're at 100% right then. I would max out as much as you can and work that into the schedule and the expectation with the seller too, so that this is part of what you're doing. And it's not going to all roll out day one, but you're going to have enough to be able to pull this through in different angles and different directions, different platforms over the time of you marketing this home.
Okay, so let's talk about a scenario where maybe it's not your listing, you're not there for staging and photos. Don't be afraid to either bring someone with, like, schedule a showing or figure out a time with the seller that you can come in and do some of that digital marketing. Bring someone with you, bring an agent partner or an assistant or a friend, um, so that they can video you, you can video them. You guys are creating content because, like, when I talk to my sellers, I'm talking about the digital marketing. That's where everybody is right now. But saying, hey, look it, I'm reaching thousands of people. Your house is going to be exposed to thousands. These are how many people are visiting my page, et cetera, because you don't want to just be put on the MLS and YouTube and whatever and hope that someone sees it. Like, the proof is in the pudding, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that what Ashley just described too, if this house is occupied, making sure that you have the showing courtesy, and also just expectation management with that listing agent. I know for us, different states have different laws as far as what you can do to market other people's listings. And where we are, if it's a company listing, it's something I have permission, but make sure that you're going through those routes because you wouldn't want to put all of the effort into it, gathering all of it to just find out that no, you don't have the actual permission needed. So if it's not your listing, and you want to do this concept, courtesy to that seller and making sure that the proper channels of permission, state specific, broker question, are covered as well. But I think that, looking at that and then also when you're competing or sitting down or doing listing appointments too, what she just described, what Ashley just went over, like that's part of your listing appointment, right? Like you're
Yes, 100%.
you're literally talking about how much your social media reaches.
Hmm.
Does it mean that it's reaching every single seller that's going to come through that door? Well, you never know that, but the fact that you have that type of social engagement is something that is noteworthy when you're talking through a listing appointment.
Well, not only that, I'm not saying like I'm a super, like, I don't have a huge following. I have
Mhm.
like almost 1,200 followers. Like, it's not that many. But when you look at my insights on my reels, it's saying, hey, 500 people, this reel reached 500 people and 499 were not followers. That's great because you can look to see where these people are looking at your content from. So I think that, yes, making the reels and posting them is great, but you need to have a strategy behind it. So you need to look at your numbers and see, like I said, where the people are looking from, um, when the active times are to post, when's the best time? Are you using the trending audio? The other thing I will mention too is, we've talked about this before, is mentioning the local businesses.
Mhm.
What's around that property that you can tag? Because if somebody's looking for, the fun park in your city, maybe you tag that park and somebody's like, oh wow, this house is for sale at right by my favorite park. So it's just exposing you, and then also those businesses might share your stuff too.
Man, I feel like just in what 5 minutes of talking, like there's a ton of ideas that agents that do not have listings or you do have a listing, so many different ways that you can kind of squeeze the water out of that sponge to get the max amount of return. And it's funny because you hear agents all the time, I don't know what to post on social. Literally just find a listing and there's so many different things. One of the key points that I want to mention, and Ashley does a great job at this, is making sure that you are in a education standpoint, that you are, yes, you should be promoting these listings, but what is reaching the followers is education based information type of reels. And so when you're doing that, it doesn't always have to be, and it should not be 3 bedroom, 2 bath, super
Hmm.
great, blah, 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 snooze fest. You
Yeah.
need to really be looking at, okay, cool. Is this a starter home? Let's do a reel with this in it. And you're featuring the home. And that could be, and to check out this property, blah, blah, blah. But it should be about, okay, what are the 3 steps to get into your first home? What are the 3 pitfalls? What are the things you should be watching out for? That should be the context of your reel. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, cool. But I'm going to be like, oh, this is Nancy's listing. This is Bob's listing. Oh, Mary has a listing and I'm marketing it. No, you should be using that as a platform to be helping actually attract clients that are wanting to be educated about the process of listing, selling, etc.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to make a reel and be like, hey guys, this is Ashley. This isn't my listing, by the way, but 123 Main Street's for sale. You guys, there's so many different ways that you can make and create content, and you can reuse the same clips. So if you take
Hmm.
10 clips at a house, you can reuse that 50 different ways by putting it on different text over the screen. So
Yep.
maybe somebody, if people are relocating to your area a lot, tell them what it looks like to live in your area. I just started doing like on Fridays there's a street on in our downtown called Franklin Street. And so one day I went up and down Franklin Street. I went into the businesses, took some content, and I was like, "Hey guys, it's Friday and I'm on Franklin Street. Let's see what's happening downtown." And I'm highlighting the local businesses. We're kind of like squirreling off of the listing portion, but
Well, I think it all comes back full
yeah,
circle. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it's not even like using one listing to get more listings. It's using a listing to get more business,
yeah.
to further your reach, to have the conversations, whether it's a buyer or a seller, whether or not it's a today business or not, you having something to breed more activity, to breed more conversations, and ultimately have more business. That's what we're talking about today when it comes to that, and
Hmm.
using that catalyst of that listing for all of those things.
Yeah.
That to me is like a no brainer across the board, and not having a listing is not an excuse for that.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so kind of working our way from like easy-ish to harder and scary tips, right?
I can't wait to hear the scary. I'm not sure where this is going to go, but
Okay, so another way to try to get more listings is to send out postcards. We talk a lot about the personal marketing company, and it's very cost effective, but just creating a graphic that says, "Hey, just listed," and you might send it around um, to that specific neighborhood, or maybe some surrounding ones too, if you're trying to get some more listings. But you want to make sure that you're not just stopping at a just listed card, because
yeah.
if somebody sees your name one time, that's just not enough.
Yeah. I did that for so many years where it was like just
Just
listed.
sold.
Okay, great. Well, what just happened? Just sold. Okay, just what happened? So I love the new technique that we're doing with that. You want to talk about the postcard series. It's not a just listed series.
Yeah. So we send out a just listed card, and then we're going to send an under contract card. And a lot of times we'll put a little bit of the details on
Mm-hmm.
that. So we're like, um, I mean, especially in the COVID market, we were like, hey, multiple offers, like 50, 100 million showings and $1 million over asking. So just giving like a little detail, under contract in 5 days, um, over asking, et cetera, whatever kind of details you'd like to share on that postcard, just to kind of make your services shine a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You can send that out. And then when it closes, we do a just sold, showing that the property sold. And then the last postcard we do is we need more inventory. So that's where we're kind of asking. So we're saying 1, 2, 3, just listed, under contract, just sold. Now we're like, hey, we want your business.
Yeah. And then all of those that we do, the timeline, it could be, right now, I have a listing that it's not like it's boom, 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 where everything's happening within like a 45-day period. And then we wait another month for the need more listing, or need more inventory. One of the things that I would suggest on your card somewhere, QR codes, want to know more about the value of your home on every single one of them. So don't assume that you have to have the trophy of I've sold and now I'm asking you for business. You need that value grab and the info grab on every single thing that you're sending out. So the goal would be, those 4 touches are just the start. Not only that, we do some, I guess you could say, scarier things. We are getting to the scarier things. We do some more specific things in the neighborhood that we're going to talk about as well. This is kind of like the confetti that you're throwing, but as I'm sitting here, I'm literally about to list like a $500,000 house off of a just sold postcard series from
Mm,
last year, literally.
there you go.
So it does work. I mean, it's not going to work every single time, but I do think that, in a way to be able to get the business, and how are you continuing to follow up from that? It's key.
Well, I think too, even with like the just sold stuff, you can target market those neighborhoods, even if,
Mm-hmm.
and Facebook ad spend is not very expensive. Like if you wanted to, um, market around your listing or the neighborhoods around the listing, or just a neighborhood you want to work with, start targeting your posts to that, your reels, your informational reels that you're making, target those to the neighborhoods that you want to work in. Like it's really not that expensive.
No, it's not. And I also have had agents that say, well, I can't do 100 times, 50 cents a postcard or
Yeah.
whatever. The other idea too is that same marketing, just listed, just sold, under contract, need more inventory, anything like that can be turned into social media and target marketing. The point is to do the same thing over again through the listing
Mhm.
process. Now, what do you do if this is not your listing? Obviously, a little bit different. You need to be confirming with the agent that they're not doing something. But we're going to talk about circle prospecting, which we probably is a little bit better idea than a postcard advertising someone else's listing per se.
Well, I sent out a just sold postcard on a house that my buyer bought with
That's
his
another great idea.
permission. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had, because I live in that neighborhood. So I was already farming it. And I'm like, do you care if I just send out a just sold? And they were like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Some people don't do that. So it worked out in my benefit anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about once you're active. So the just listed is you're active, but once you're active, what are you actually doing boots on the ground in the neighborhood? Let's talk about the strategy of the neighbors.
Okay. So I am putting together a little box. And this can be as simple as a listing flyer or a flyer to your open house. It does not have to be what I'm talking about. You can make it your own. So basically what I'm doing is I'm grabbing a little box. I'm using a play on words. I have like a little bread making kit because everybody's into making sourdough right now. And it says, we need your help. KNEAD, like kneading bread. We need your help. And it's basically saying, pick your neighbors. Your neighbor's house is for sale. We need your help finding a buyer. Do you know anyone? Please come to my open house on date and time with the address. So, with that, I'm going to knock on the door because I'm not selling anything. I'm just inviting you as a neighbor to my open house. If you don't want to come, that's fine. You can make some sourdough bread.
Yeah, and you're giving a gift.
And
It's
you're
like
giving a
it's
gift.
a
Yeah.
no brainer.
But that's the scary thing. I mean, if you don't like door knocking, I mean, I personally don't like when people come to my door. Like if I see that you're a salesman or something, like I'm not answering. I'm hiding behind the wall, honestly. If I'm like, "Oh, I hide behind the wall." I don't know. I don't want them to
Well,
see
and
me.
I think the key for that too is like when are people just out, naturally out? And like that could just you should know that already by all of the prep and preparing that
Mhm.
you've done up to this point. So if you're like Sunday afternoons, it ain't knocking on the door. That's literally just talking neighbor to neighbor.
Yeah.
So that could be another way to actually have the conversations. I think the biggest thing in all of this, and I think the stigmatism of door knocking doesn't work. It's like, because you ain't really knocking.
Mhm.
You are literally, either ding dong dash or you're hanging something and hoping and praying that they don't answer. But I think that you're defeating the purpose in all different directions. So when you do these boxes, and we will have information about this if you head over to our social media, some pictures and some resources for this. If
Mhm.
you are doing this, like what if I have a neighborhood of 100 people? How many of these? That's not cheap,
Mhm.
bread making kits. How many are you doing for that?
So, I'm going to do the 5 houses to the right, 5 houses to the left, and then the 10 across the street.
Yeah. So 20
So
total.
20 total. That's it. Doesn't have to be scary. And even if you didn't want to knock on the door, if you're like, I need to work myself up, just put it on their porch.
Yeah.
Like that's not as good, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah. I think you're going to have the biggest return if you're actually having the conversations. Now, on the
Yeah.
card that you're doing with that, always want to know more about your value,
Hmm.
want to know more, scan for the website, want to know more, a call to action, always more than just come to the open house and help me sell.
Yeah.
The whole point of this is, yes, to sell your listing, yes, to do more, but it is absolutely for more transactions and more business to come your way. You're not, let's say those are $20 a piece. You just described 20 times $20, that's $400. Surely that needs to have a return for you if you're
Hmm.
doing this. Now, if it is not your listing, have you done that before? I know you have door knocked around, my listings
Hmm.
before for open houses. So what are you doing differently if it is, Mary's listing in the office and it's like, well, am I putting $400 to say, hey, we need your help to sell Mary's listing? Same approach or
Mm.
doing something different?
I think that would be personal preference. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it depends on your budget. It depends on what amount of time you have. Do you want listings in that neighborhood? Because if you're like, hey, I don't want to work in this neighborhood, you don't have to. Like that's kind of the beauty of our job where we're like, if if we don't want to do more business there, you don't have to pursue it. So I think that it has to be somewhere that you're wanting to work, that you're wanting to be consistent with, because even after, you drop these boxes off, well, maybe you start marketing to those 20 houses,
Mm-hmm.
put those people on your mailing list. You have their address. You may not have their email, so they're not going to be getting your newsletter and things like that. But you can add 20 houses to your marketing plan. I think that's too easy. Put
Yeah.
it on your pop by list, and those people will start to remember you, and they're going to be like, okay, this girl had a listing in our neighborhood at this house. She gave us the bread box. She's popping by. She's providing value. And I think that alone, like door knocking with a box, inviting someone to an open house is more than what 95% of
Yeah.
agents are doing right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think that you can kind of dumb this down completely. And I've done over the years different scenarios where it is not as cost heavy and it's
Mhm.
been an entire neighborhood. Or I've done, the door hook cards that
Mhm.
hook onto the doorknob. I've done that inviting. I think that the exclusive scenario, inviting them to an open house, that's the ask, that you're going, hey, dude, looking to buy, sell, rent. No, I'm asking you to come to my open house.
Yep.
I'll see you there. More conversation to be had as far as that goes. So it could be any kind of different angle on this. I really, really love the introduction that, Ashley's doing with the 5 5 10. And it looks really great for your sellers. Your sellers are like, wait, you did what to try to put my house in front of people?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different versions that you could be doing when it comes to that.
Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't have to be a box. It could literally be your open house flyer.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm doing an open house over at the Smiths on Sunday from this time. Would love for you to stop by in case you have any friends or family who are looking to move into this neighborhood.
Yep.
And that's it. And if they're like, okay, thanks, bye, that's fine. Like you showed your face. They may come, they may not. And you gave them the information.
Yeah. Yep. Check, check.
Check, chickadee check.
All right. So for open houses, like when you're talking about the actual open house, are you doing anything more different? Anything that we need to touch base on? We've done episodes on
Mhm.
open houses, but anything that you're doing different specifically? I know we've done times where we've done like a neighborhood exclusive 1 hour or, a wine and cheese for the neighborhood or different things like that. But anything that you think that you would be good points in the concept of taking this one listing and getting more listings.
Okay, so if you haven't listened to our portfolio review episode, go ahead and go back to listen to that on how to do a portfolio review. But again, I have another box. The boxes that I knock on doors with for listings, they're black and they're a little bit bigger. These
Yep.
ones are white and a little bit skinnier. But I'm bringing those to my open house that have a QR code to my website where people can fill out their information. But it basically just says how much is my home worth. And if somebody writes down on a little sticky note or a piece of paper, I will go home, and then within that week, I will run the comps, do a mini CMA portfolio review for them, and then door drop that back to them. So that way, if they've raised their hand to ask, hey, I am kind of wondering what my property value is. Okay, well here, just fill out this little sticky note, give me your contact info, and I'll be happy to bring that to you by this week.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that what do you have? And we talked about this recently as a team in your open houses. Like, are they coming for info or are they coming for the house? Like, are they coming for you selling yourself or are you just opening up the door for this house? And so I think that the things that are inside the home to spark conversation, to initiate and to be able to back up your conversation, what is it that you're doing for buyers? Like, what is it that if you, cool, you have a cute little something or other. Oh, thanks for popping by. Here's some popcorn. And, here's this cute little whatever. But if you have a conversation about a buyer, and that could be, we're looking to buy in the next 3 to 5 years, what resource are you sending away that, again, has the QR codes, the landing pages, the info that you could be providing to them? What do you have ready and set to go for that? For the sellers, is it the boxes that Ashlee just referred to? Is it information and marketing about your process, etc.? Making sure that you have more than just the cute open house setup, the actual information that you can be starting conversations, backing up your conversations, just in general, having a little bit more of a thoughtful process to prepare that.
Well, I think too, just getting, if a buyer comes in, you want to get their information because they're out looking to buy. So providing value, figuring out, are they a first-time home buyer? Okay, they are. Let's set them on a drip campaign for first-time home buyers. Are they are they currently renting and they don't know if they should buy? A rent versus buy drip campaign. So that way you're still providing value. You're in their inbox, um, along with following up with them, of course. But I think just as much value as you could provide always is the best answer.
Yeah. And making sure you're thinking like that. Thinking it's no longer good enough just to check the box. Like
Yeah.
really, how are you really going through this process and doing every single possible thing you can? And it's like, great. Yeah. Obviously the listing needs to be selling, right? Like we need to be selling the properties that we have in front of us, but are we really capitalizing in every single conversation, every single opportunity? Because really, in this market, it's that important. It's that important to be working at 110% at 100% of the time.
Yeah. Well, I think too, we're problem solvers.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way to solve people's problems and like the most impressive way is to solve them before they happen, or like identify a need that they may not know that they have. You know what I mean?
Where's the
Didn't oh, we have sound effects on the
oh,
thing.
there you go. Needed a sound effect. That was money. Write
Yeah.
that down and live by it.
And again, that's the stuff you should be putting on your reels. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've made reels before about being house poor because that happened to me and it was the worst. And so I try to like tell my clients, you don't want to do that. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be house poor. Let's look at your payment,
Mm-hmm.
all the things. But you can educate your clients on so many things. I think that we take for granted how much we actually know about the process. Sometimes I'll talk to my mom and I'm like, yeah, it's so easy. Just like, because she's thinking about selling and buying something a little closer to us. And I'm like, yeah, you can buy and sell at the same time. I do it all the time. It'd be fine, mom. But I'm like, maybe I need to talk to her more like she's a client and not like, you're my mom. I got you. Like,
Yeah.
just let
Like
me do it.
how to break it down, etc. And anything that
Yeah.
you could have to help support that, I
Yeah.
think to back you up, that should be the stuff that you're equipping yourself with.
Yeah.
All right. So to wrap everything up, I think the only thing that we missed talking about was circle prospecting letters,
Mhm.
which is not a scary thing. I know we said we are going to
Yeah.
get scarier as we go. Really, none of this is scary.
I think
But
the door knocking's scary
yeah, yeah,
for me sometimes and also everyone listening.
like scary, like you're going to get shot.
No,
Scary,
not
or
like
just
I'm scared for my life. I'm scared if someone's going to open the door.
like
Like
I'm scared if I'm actually going to have a conversation in real estate. I mean,
I
I
get
get
nervous. I'm not like terrified or
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I'm just like, who's going to answer? What are they going to be like? Ugh.
Yeah, and and I also think that how you react to is also kind of how you're perceiving that this to be too.
Yeah.
So I think that I overcome that too, and I think that just in general overcoming that by figuring out when are they outside. So there's no door to knock. So you're just literally walking, handing out all the presents and having conversations.
Yeah.
That's one of the ways that you can get over that, and be able to like take away the door scenario. So
Oh, another tip too with these boxes when you're door knocking, bring a wagon because you're not going to be able to carry 20 boxes.
Yeah.
And it's about to get warm here in Tennessee. So I'm not trying to sweat back and forth to my car. Just walk the neighborhood with a little wagon.
that is a very good idea,
Yeah.
actually.
All the tips.
All right. So circle prospecting letters. Do you have something that you have done over the years that has worked that you're like, okay, this has been the best return? Is there different things that you switch up as you're doing it? Like what kind of things have you done with letters and what are some tips and tricks? Because I think of when I'm like, okay, that's I spending a couple hours walking and talking. Okay, cool. Printing, stuffing, labeling, stamps, money, cost, all the things. I'm like, to just throw that into the mail. But now we have an agent in our office that has literally built a business from ground up because she's in a rural area and she can't just go door knock. And there's a safety concern when you're door knocking in the country. So it obviously works. And there's so many people that talk about that. But what has been some things that you've done with circle prospecting and what specifically? Because there's all kinds of different ways that you can circle prospect. But with listings to get more business, what have you done that you think would be beneficial?
Okay, so if I'm looking for listings, normally I'll use a letter like I had a buyer. So not, hey, Mr. Seller, I have a buyer for your property. I would say, hey, I had a buyer who was looking at 123 Main Street, and you're trying to be specific, right? You're not just trying to pull a house out of your whatever and just make something up. Okay. So maybe find a property that has sold, or maybe you did have a buyer who missed out in a multiple offer situation, or maybe their offer didn't get accepted. Whatever it was, say, hey, I am working with a client who loves your neighborhood, who missed out at the property on 123 Main Street. If you or anyone in the neighborhood's looking to sell that might be fitting a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,500 square feet house, please contact me immediately. I might be able to sell your property without it ever going on the market.
Yeah.
Because then you can, and if your buyer has moved on by the time they call you, that's fine. Just talk to them as a seller. Like, hey, you know what? I already found the Smith family a house, but I'm happy to find someone to buy your house,
And that doesn't even really have to be, that could be completely independent of every single thing else that we've talked about. Because like, if it's your listing, is that going to be an applicable letter when they're like, wait, your sign was in the yard?
Yeah.
But I also think that you can do a double back on that. And if it is your listing and it has sold and you have done the just sold postcards, inventory, all of those things, that can also be flipped around and turned into a letter as well. That could, congratulations to your neighborhood. Your neighbor's house just sold and this did change your value. You didn't say it went up. You didn't say it went down, but your value of your home has changed because I sold 123 Short Street. So if you would like to have an updated portfolio review, if you want updated value, the portfolio review that Ashlee was referring to, then you can reach out to me, scan a code, send me an email. Like, how can they actually reach out to you? Because that's another direct, a direct letter, not a postcard willy-nilly, expecting that they're raising their hand for more inventory. That looks like the need more inventory card looks like, are you ready to sell? The your value has changed concept of a circle prospecting letter, that actually can just be where you're adding people to your database, and that may not even be a right now scenario, or it might be a right now as soon as they know what their value is, whether it's gone up or down, etc. So a couple different ways that you can circle prospect with the letters. I think that probably when you have the actual listing, it's your listing, it's sold, announcing to them that they have a change in value. And if they want to know what that looks like, they need to raise their hand, is going to be the most effective of, that kind of cold approach to all of the stuff we talked about.
I'm going to take that a step further. If you did a good job and your clients liked your services, have them write a little blurb about what it was like working with you. Was it like the communication was really great, always on time, great negotiation, or just a pleasure to work with? Either way, just get like a little, ask them, hey, will you write me just like 2 or 3 sentences about what it was like to work with me? I'm going to send a letter out to your neighborhood. And I think that goes a long way, because they're going to be like, oh, well, my neighbor Susie was happy with her. Maybe she is really great.
And you're suggesting putting that into the letter that you're saying your values changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enhancing that. Yeah. I think that is a great idea. There's so much right now buzzing around about testimonials and agent resumes, and us being presented, to the consumer as a professional. So the more that you can do that, especially if it's Susie, the neighbor that they know, and they're like, yeah, Susie totally would have said that. Well, that's great. Susie has really high standards, so that's great. Being able to have all of that, I think is pretty much gold.
Well, and I think it gives the consumer a place to read a review immediately. So like they might check their mail and they're headed to sports, but they've read that one review from someone that lives in their neighborhood. They don't have to go to Google or Facebook or wherever to find out about you. It's, hey, wow, my next door neighbor really liked her, so maybe I would like her too.
Yep. Absolutely. So tons of different ideas. I don't think we've missed anything. I think that is a really a path to success. And again, doesn't have to be your listing. Certainly helps if it is, but there is absolutely no excuse that you guys cannot be using active inventory to gain more business, buyers and sellers in the coming days.
All right. Well, if that doesn't get you motivated to either get one listing and turn it into more, or use somebody else's listing to turn it into more, I don't know what will.
Are you breathing? Are you alive? Do you even want to be in this industry? I think that it is super motivating. And I also think that there are things that we individually think are scary or like impossible, or there's no way it's going to work. But I think that the cool thing is there's tons of options. And no, we cannot do everything. We were talking about that before this episode, that we cannot be in a million places at one time. Things are taking longer to come together. And so start by just one thing. Like
Yeah.
is it the 5-5-10? Is it the circle prospecting? Is it the postcard series? What is one thing that you can take away to start implementing? Because yes, you can do that.
Well, not only that, maybe just pick one thing. Like, hey, I'm going to send out the letters. Okay, that's something you can stuff the envelopes while you're watching TV or you're at a whatever. I think that there's ways to just implement things into your business without it being a huge cost or time suck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. But I think out of all of this stuff, like my biggest takeaway, and really all of ours our takeaway, like the non-negotiable is the social media, the reels, the content, that is just non-negotiable. So if you take away anything from today, and I think we can, speak for this too, that you need to be taking the opportunity for the stuff that you have right in front of you and just doing it.
Yep.
No cost, but time. You can do that. And we talk about this all the time. A tip and trick: follow someone that is doing exactly what you want to be doing.
Yep.
It shouldn't probably be someone in your market, but heck, there's things that I copy from.
I was going to say that's why Tiffany follows me.
but what I do is I scroll back 6 months. So I'm like, what is still relevant that she put out 6 months ago? Because I will copycat. But then there's also other agents around the country that I'm like, I want to be like them. And there's also agents that are collaborating and saying all the time, just copy what I'm doing, literally copy and paste what I'm doing. And so I think that you have no excuse for that. That was one of the things from today that I think that you guys, listings of your own or not, you absolutely need to be doing.
Yeah. And I also think too, telling your sellers that you're going to market on social media. And I think if you're not doing the reels, then you're kind of doing them a disservice. Like that's where the people are. That's where you reach people. So
absolutely.
All right, guys, if you found this helpful, please give it a 5-star review. You can find us everywhere at Realestatable on social, and we will see you next time.